Full spoiler warning. Beyond this point, what I say might ruin this movie for you. So, hello everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am Aiden Caustic, and today we're going to be doing a deep dive into probably the most anticipated movie ever. Well, at least it feels like that lately. Avengers Endgame.
Before we're done, we still have one promise to keep. If we can't protect the Earth, you can be damn sure we'll avenge it. Whatever it takes.
So guys, Avengers Endgame, you guys have already watched my non-spoiler review. You already know that I love this movie deeply. So we're just kind of going to go right into it. And from the moment this movie starts, when we knew that Jeremy Renner was going to be going down a darker path in this movie with the trailers, and you know, the set photos leaked with him with the Ronin outfit, so we all assumed with the snapping, his family's a goner. And within the first 5 seconds of this movie, you were like, yeah, sorry guys, you guys are definitely going away. But I really enjoyed the fact that this was the opening, and it completely set the tone and it set the stakes for the rest of the movie moving forward. And that's something that I really appreciated, was feeling like this is a real, tangible world. The fact that these characters are so binary and they're actually living together, that none of this feels like we have Chris Evans playing Captain America and we have Robert Downey Jr. playing Tony Stark. It feels like they're all there together. And speaking of those two, with the kickoff of this movie right after Captain Marvel comes in, saves Tony and Nebula, brings them back to the planet, which leaves you to assume that that Captain Marvel post-credit scene happened a little bit before this movie starts. And seeing Tony go at Chris Evans and, you know, Captain America the way that he does.
Take that off. What are you?
Genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist.
Right then and there, I was like, this is Robert Downey Jr., ladies and gentlemen. This is why we have him playing Tony. He was phenomenal in this movie, and the severe loss that everybody carries with them throughout the rest of this movie. Thor being so pissed off with Thanos, he couldn't even bear to hear him speak anymore. He just swings in with Stormbreaker and chops off his head. I mean,
You should have gone for the head.
this movie in 5 minutes set the pace for the rest of this movie going forward, and it did so phenomenally. And now with all of our characters knowing that the Infinity Stones are no longer around, there's no way to undo this. We have to live with what we have, and I loved the 5-year time jump to Joe Russo, one of the directors of this movie, sitting down and talking in that AA kind of meeting with Steve, and just seeing how everyone's coping with everything. And then you get Black Widow, and she's kind of hosting this war room meeting with the Avengers, where you have Nebula and Rocket, you know, presumably off on some other planet, taking care of their business. And then you have Denai Guerrera's character. You have her talking about they're dealing with earthquakes underwater. I was like, okay, maybe we're setting up Namor in the future, but we'll have to see how that goes with the distribution rights throughout Universal. But we get the badass Captain Marvel with that new haircut. That was so dope. And I love the line that Rocket kind of gave her. But she's off still dealing with off-world issues, what's going on in all the other planets. Everybody's rioting. And we kind of see what's going on with some of the other characters. You have Bruce Banner, who has turned into Professor Hulk, which before this movie started, I really wanted to see what the progression of Hulk was going to be. We set him up in Infinity War. The Hulk got so messed up, he doesn't even want to come out anymore. He's done. He's had it. He's given up. And I wanted to see Professor Hulk. I genuinely did, but I always kind of imagined, this is one of those things where you go into a movie with expectations, and some of those expectations are met, some of them aren't, but they're succeeded in a different way. And this, for me, just was a matter of the execution. I just couldn't get behind a dabbing, glasses-wearing Hulk. I just In my mind, I pictured the most badass scene with Thanos, and he's about to kill one of the Avengers, and you have Mark Ruffalo step in and grab him, and Thanos just hits him with the line, "the mindless beast," or something like that, and then Hulk goes no longer mindless, and just something like that is what I was picturing, and that could have been cool. It could have been the worst thing in the entire movie. You never know with these kind of things, but the rest of the movie kind of won me over with him using the gauntlet to actually bring everybody back. I liked where they went with his character towards the end of the movie once they got a little out of the jokey stuff, but I could tell Mark Ruffalo was just having so much fun in this role. I really feel like he finally felt like he got the credit that he deserves, other than in Thor Ragnarok, because I could tell he was definitely having a good time in that movie as well, but I just think that after 11 years, these actors really know their characters, and they really are those characters. But we also had the Thor thing. The Big Lebowski Thor was a good laugh when I saw him, and he's sitting there playing Fortnite with Korg and Meek, which was great to see them back. The whole new Asgard situation. I wondered before this movie, I'm like, okay, so are we going to acknowledge that some of the Asgardians lived and they drop a bomb on you, you know, half the Asgardians died in that attack with Thanos in the first Infinity War, and then half of them died again during the Snapping, so they're left at a quarter of what it was. You can kind of tell in this small little fish marketing kind of town that they've all lost as well, and that's just the theme that the first two acts of this movie really sets up, is everybody's lost and the stakes and, you know, like the tagline, whatever it takes, whatever it takes. The Thor gag really overstayed its welcome. I mean, I just couldn't get behind his plotline in this movie. The story kind of meandered a little bit whenever we get to the whole time jumping situation, and he sees his mother again and they kind of have their conversation. I thought in the moment it was great, and overall it really helped project the story forward, but I don't know if I would have spent as much time on it as I did. And I also kind of had, and I don't mean to body shame anybody if that's how you're taking this, but I really just wanted to see Thor, the badass ripped Thor, whenever he gets Mjolnir back from the Dark World timeline and brings it back into the future. I wanted to see that moment, like in the first Avengers, whenever he raises his arm up and Mjolnir comes to him, and then you just see the suit starting to form across his whole body. You know, we can't have everything that we want from these movies, so I understand that. We also see Tony, and we see his daughter with Pepper, which I didn't expect them to have a kid in this movie, and the moment you see her, I realized in my head, Tony is a goner in this movie. But it didn't go the way I thought. I thought we were going to have a situation where we were going to be doing time traveling and he was going to have to choose whether or not to go forward in this timeline where we can bring everybody back or stay here where he has his family. And Tony got what he wanted, and he had that familial bond, which, speaking of familial bond, I loved getting to see Tony and Howard Stark. It was just a great moment. The Russo brothers know this franchise. And two people who do not get enough credit on these movies, Marcus and McFeely, amazing screenwriters. They know the characters and they know this world well. Someone who, when I was a little kid and I used to watch the Iron Man animated series, I loved War Machine, but one episode, I don't even remember what the whole plot of this episode was. It was the episode when Hawkeye comes in, and it was just something about that purple suit, and I was really into archery at the time, and I had the Justice League animated series, and I loved Green Arrow on that. He was so cool, and to see the Marvel version of Green Arrow, I loved Hawkeye, and I just have never felt like he's been given the credit that he deserves, and we've never really had that backstory with him, and I loved getting to see the whole, like, anime John Wick kind of sequence with Ronin just going in and taking out all these horrible people. It was some of the best Batman stuff I've seen on film without it actually being Batman, if that makes sense to you guys. But to see how far he's fallen, and to see how much this has greatly affected this universe that not all the bad people were the people who were gone. I mean, good people were lost and bad people were left, and worlds are just falling out of order, and everything has gone to shit, pretty much. I mean, it's like an Elseworld story where the Avengers lost, and that's something that we never thought was going to happen. And then, as we all presumed, coming out of Ant-Man and the Wasp, with Ant-Man stuck in the quantum realm, and we heard those rumblings of the time travel and all of that and what's going on. And speaking of which, I wonder what's going to happen with the character of Ghost moving forward, because we didn't get any mentions to her or anything like that in this movie, but that's a topic for another time. Ant-Man coming out of the quantum realm 5 years later, and a moment that I was wondering how they were going to go with it in the theater about Cassie, where's Cassie? And him searching through that monument with all the names of all the people who have been lost in San Francisco. And I got choked up, and when you see him finally reunite with Cassie, and having just watched Ant-Man and Ant-Man and the Wasp, and that's the whole foundation of that series, is Scott Lang's bond with his daughter and Hope Van Dyne's bond with her mother and her father, and to see both of them have that reunion was just so touching. But working the time travel aspect of Ant-Man coming back was where some of it got a little messy for me, and going around in the different timelines and who's where and what's happening now, and Loki stole the stone in this timeline, so what does that mean for it going forward? And guys, please correct me if I'm wrong or if I misunderstood the way that the whole time travel aspect goes in. I've only seen it once. I can't wait to go see it again. But I've only seen it once, and I only have the knowledge that I have right now. Wouldn't Loki stealing that space stone branch off into another timeline? Because when Cap and Ant-Man and Tony make the jump again to the past, wouldn't that have become a different timeline? I'm not too sure on that, but I just want it to be, so that way one day we can finally incorporate Kang into all of this. And if any of you hardcore sweaties know about Kang, you guys know how cool of a villain he could be. He could 100% be the next Thanos, because I don't want to hop into, now that Disney has 20th Century Fox, I don't want to hop straight into the, okay, now we have X-Men and now we get Fantastic Four in here and all this and Galactus and the Living Tribunal and all of that. Like, let's just calm down. We don't need all those celestial beings. We're probably going to get that in 2020 with the Eternals movie coming out, but let's just slow down again. I just want everything to go back to how it was before, back in the Iron Man days. Let's just take these small movies, nothing end of the world, like in Ant-Man, where the first Ant-Man wasn't about, saving the world. It was just about a heist, trying to steal a suit. I wonder how they can play around with Kang in that in the future and lead up over another 10 years, and we can build into that. Who knows? Maybe we can bring Tom Hiddleston back. I personally don't want him to come back because I want all those deaths pre-snapping to feel solidified, and that was it. That's it. That's all you're getting from that character. A moment that absolutely broke me was seeing Hawkeye and seeing Black Widow. Media side of me knows that we have this Hawkeye Disney Plus series coming out with Jeremy Renner. And part of me knows that we have the Black Widow movie shooting next month, presumably coming out 2020 with Scarlett Johansson coming back, plus David Harbour. So part of me is like, okay, it's a little too late to do a Black Widow prequel movie. If you guys were going to do that, you should have done that around Iron Man 2 when you incorporated her in the first place. And part of me is like, okay, but you can't kill Hawkeye because they said that this is presumably going to be post-Endgame. So what happens with this? But seeing those two fighting to save each other was heartbreaking. And I've never felt that connected to Natasha in this series, but seeing her sprawled out and dead the way she was, it broke me. That was it. It was the realization of the stakes of this movie, that not all of our characters, not all 6 of the OG Avengers are going to make this out alive. I mean, it set the precedence for what moves forward and what we're losing versus what we're getting back. And, whatever it takes. But back in the Avengers timeline, I love seeing the callback to the scene whenever they're all surrounding Loki, and then I always kind of wondered, I know that they've kind of hit on this a little bit in those comic series. I don't know if those are still canon, if they contradict each other or not, but little in-between comics that they would do between Marvel movies where we found out, Black Widow was actually there during the Incredible Hulk university fight scene, and we got a little bit more tidbits like that, but seeing all those Hydra dudes come in, and we get Rumlow Crossbones come in there, and then we get, I can't remember what his name is, but the bald guy from Winter Soldier and all those movies. And we have all of them come in and they're trying to steal the scepter leading into Age of Ultron, which going back and watching Age of Ultron might make that movie a little bit better for me, but who knows? I just want to go see Endgame again. I don't care about watching Ultron again, but seeing them come in and Cap doing the Hail Hydra was just, it felt like it was one of those nods to the comic book fans who've been reading the series where Cap was actually an agent of Hydra, but you guys, if you guys read the series, you know how that one ends, but it felt like it was like a little screw you guys, the people who were just pissing their pants over the fact that Cap was a Hydra agent in that one series. But I love getting to see the fight scene with Cap v Cap and them playing off the fact that the internet has created this whole bromance around Bucky and Steve and the whole Bucky's still alive, and he completely drops his guard, which you would expect Steve to do in a moment like that, and that is America's ass. Then on the other side of New York, we have Professor Hulk meeting with Tilda Swinton as the Ancient One, which was a great moment. It was like, I can't believe that this movie is doing what it's doing. It is so well incorporating all 21 prior movies to this movie. We see Rumlow, we see the Ancient One, and we see Robert Redford's character show up again. It was just so much fun, guys. You guys have seen the movie. You know how much fun this is. I'm sure that you guys have watched 18 spoiler reviews already before you've watched this one. I know I have. I've seen everybody's points, and we all know how much fun that this movie was, but seeing Hulk and seeing Tilda Swinton in the moment when she realized, wait, he gave up the time stone, he would never do something like that, and realizing that it played into the Endgame.
We're in the Endgame now.
Letting you guys know that, okay, we're on the right path. This is what it's supposed to be. We also kind of get the point of view of the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie when it's the intro, the title sequence when Peter's walking through and he's doing the little dance routine and you see Rhodey and Nebula there like he's such an idiot. But this was one of the things that I was also a little disappointed about in the movie, but thinking about it now, I'm definitely not, because this is where we get the perspective of past Thanos, Guardians Thanos, and I really wanted more Thanos in this movie, but this wasn't Thanos' movie. Infinity War was completely told from Thanos' perspective. He wanted to save the universe, and in his mind he did. This movie was about the Avengers wanting to save the universe, and as we know in this movie, they did. It's all just a matter of perspective. Thanos was more of the mustache-twirling villain in this movie, which I kind of didn't like, but we already had time to develop him. This movie is about the love letter to our characters that we've spent trying to kill the son of a bitch for the past couple movies. Past years, the past decade. And as we know, like I said earlier, they get all the Infinity Stones together, and it was great seeing them argue about who's going to be the one to do it, but Hulk wasn't the guy who I pictured, but when you think about it, he's the one who has the strength to do it. As we set up in the first Guardians, humans can't hold Infinity Stones. And you see how much of a toll that took onto Hulk. We knew in the first Infinity War when Thanos snapped his fingers, and you see how melted the gauntlet was, and you see how messed up his whole arm was, and like we saw earlier in this movie, his arm was gross. He looked like Jaime Lannister had just dipped his arm in a hot plate and pulled it out. It was pretty gross. But you see that toll that it took on him, and the fact that he probably wouldn't have been able to snap it again. And of course, we get this great shot in this movie that I leaned over to my friend and we were talking about it a little bit, but Ant-Man, he's walking outside and the light comes in over the tree and you see one bird and then the next thing you know, another bird flies up next to it and you go, they did it. Everybody's back. And I was like, okay, but how do we get everybody back? Who's on the other planets? And what's going to happen with Vision? And where's T'Challa? And what's going on right now in the rest of the world? You know, how's everyone going forward right now? And we look up, and you see Thanos' ship pull up. And someone in the theater, like a couple seats over from me, just shouted out, "We still have 1 hour left." And I had the biggest smile on my face that I possibly could have had. 1 hour left to see what I contend to be the best hour in any genre film ever. I don't care if it's Return of the King. You Lord of the Rings fans, you can hate me and yell at me in the comments all you want. I love Star Wars. I love Star Wars more than this. It was better than that Rogue One ending with Vader going in with the rebels, and I don't care. This was the best hour in any genre film I've ever seen. The double splash page when Cap finally yells, "Avengers Assemble," and we get I have goosebumps on my entire body right now talking about this. Cap, when he yelled "Avengers Assemble," and we have everybody come in, all the Wakandans, and you get all the sorcerers coming in. I couldn't believe how happy and how big my smile was. And prior to that, when we have Cap pick up Mjolnir, I knew it was going to happen going into this movie. I didn't read any Endgame spoilers, but they had to acknowledge that scene from Age of Ultron where it wiggles a little bit and you get Thor. I knew it. As a lifelong Captain America fan, Batman has always been my favorite superhero, and he always will be my favorite superhero, but Captain America was always my second favorite. And to see Chris Evans portray this character the way he does, it's just something that it brings so much joy to me that I never thought I would be able to see. And to kind of jump ahead a little bit, but I'm getting misty-eyed right now thinking about it, but as a young black man and loving Captain America the way I do, and to see past Cap come in as an old man who got the dance with Peggy and he lived his life, and a man from a time of racism and a time of hatred and a time of bigotry and all that bullshit that just should have never existed in this world. And to see him and Sam have that moment, and Bucky in the background just nodding his head and giving the blessing, and Steve giving the blessing for Sam to be the next Captain America. I've never been so emotionally charged and emotionally moved in a movie like this. And it's just an understatement of how happy I am right now. But before that, speaking of emotional, when Tony steals all the Infinity Stones, which, you can tell how much of a nerd I am right now. Cutting a little bit before that, that fight scene when Captain Marvel pulls up and is beating Thanos the way she is, Brie Larson, ladies and gentlemen, I don't care what any of you stupid misogynistic guys out there think about women are this and women are that. Fuck all of you guys. Sorry to all my family who's watching this right now. Fuck all of you guys. Brie Larson is such a badass. That whole fucking scene, all of it, I ate it up. But seeing Tony with the Infinity Stones was the shot that I always wanted. It was like when I was 10 years old and thinking, okay, what if they ever did the Illuminati? And we can have Charles Xavier, and we can have Doctor Strange, and we can have T'Challa, and we can have Tony, and we can have Reed Richards, and they can all come in, and they can do like an Infinity Watch, and they can watch over the stones, and seeing Tony hold it, and I knew that was his moment, and that was his send-off, and his line.
I am Iron Man.
Nerd chills all throughout. I am sweaty Rest in peace to the late great John Schnepp. I am sweaty right now. The payoff that we got was so worth it. I've been watching these movies since 2008, the first public screening of Iron Man that there was. I was there, guys. These movies are just something of a freaking fairy tale. I can't believe the world that we're living in right now. And we still have more to go. I mean, we have Game of Thrones on this Sunday, the Battle of Winterfell. We have Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker. We have a Todd Phillips directed Joaquin Phoenix Scorsese style Joker movie coming out this year. Are you kidding me? We have James Gunn directing Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and The Suicide Squad. This is such a time to be alive for genre fans like us. But guys, I could probably sit here and talk about everything in this movie for hours, from the Ant-Man nod to the little A-Force thing that we get with all the girls and what's going to happen with the Guardians in the future. We have Thor joining the Guardians, and it looks like they're going to be searching after Gamora. Is she going to become like Comet Gamora, and is she going to go find Adam Warlock, who we know got set up in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2? What's going to happen? Stan Lee's last cameo. I don't even know what he said. My theater was so loud, and we cheered for him so much that I don't even know what his line was in the movie. Guys, I have to take a break. I've been recording for 32 minutes. This is the longest I've ever recorded anything yet on this channel. You know I love this movie. We all love this movie. Don't spoil the Endgame for those who haven't seen it yet. Don't screenshot something. Don't go in and record it on Snapchat. Don't post it on your story. Don't do any of that. Don't take away someone else's enjoyment. The pure enjoyment I had of spending my last moments with Tony Stark, I Love You 3000. Seeing Cap finally use Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, and all these little moments, it's just something that I never thought that as a child that I would ever get. And the satisfaction that I truly had in this movie, don't take that away from somebody else. But thank you guys so much. Please subscribe, hit the like button, comment down below what was your favorite scene in the movie. I know mine. Mine was definitely Cap using that and passing the mantle off to Sam. Hit the social media links in the description below. Hit my notification bell so you guys can stay up to date with everything I have going on in this channel. And just thank you guys so much, and don't spoil the Endgame.